Did you know that 72% of educators who have experienced online teaching say that it takes more time than in-person teaching? Let's talk about some ways that we can manage that time so that work and school doesn't completely take over our lives. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here and don't know who I am, my name is Danielle Rochford, and I am a grade 7 and 8 online teacher. And I have been teaching for, teaching for 20 plus years, but teaching online for over 10 years now. And so on this channel, I like to share with you some of the different things that I've learned over my time teaching online, as well as some of the tech tips that I have and things like that. So if that is something that you are interested in, then it would be a great idea to hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I upload new content or go live. So now that we have the formalities out of the way, why don't we talk a little bit about our topic for today? See, there certainly is a rhythm to teaching. You know, we work within semesters, quarters, or terms, and that has a set number of weeks that we work with. So it's very structured how we typically work in a school setting. Even within those terms, we have chunks of time, and traditionally those chunks of time are governed by the school bell. Well, online teaching has kind of changed that. And what it's done is it has required us to reconsider some of our traditional notions of time. Teaching and learning doesn't always have to happen at a fixed time or a fixed location. Students often have more flexibility to be able to complete tasks, to access their work, which has really resulted in a shift in certain expectations, most notably the availability of the teacher. Now, to go along with that, I have a little bit of a story. A couple years back, I had a student who emailed me because they had some questions. Now, this email ended up being sent at 2 o'clock in the morning, so 2 a.m. What the student was doing up at 2 a.m., I teach grade 7 and 8, I will never know. But that email came through at 2 a.m. Now, when I got up in the morning, prepared for the day, I went through, my emails, and I go through in sequential order, the order that they've been received. And so I hadn't gotten to the student's email. We logged into class at 8 a.m., so that's just 6 hours after the email had been sent. And as soon as we get into class, this student's hand goes right up. And so I recognized their hand and asked what it is that he would like. And he proceeds to ask why I hadn't responded to his email yet. He was completely baffled. So needless to say, we had a short conversation that reminded the class about proper expectations when it comes to me responding to them. Teachers have a lot on their plate, right? Creating class content, monitoring discussion groups, responding to students and parent emails, hosting online classes. Those are just some of the activities that require the energy of an online teacher. So how is it that we can effectively manage all of this? Well, today I want to take you through a couple of different time-saving practices that I have implemented in my own classes. Now, the first one is setting expectations for feedback. In today's world, there is an expectation of immediacy. So for many things, the expectation is that it's going to happen right away. You know, I send a message here, they're going to respond to me right away. Obviously, as a teacher, I want to be communicating regularly with students and parents. But that doesn't mean that it's reasonable to expect that I'm able to respond immediately or even to grade an assignment immediately. Right? At the beginning of the school year, I tell students and parents what they should expect when they send me emails or when they submit assignments. My policy is that I guarantee that I will respond to emails and private comments on assignments within 48 hours. Now, throughout the school year, my response time varies significantly. Often I'm able to get to those communications sooner than the 48 hours. But during times, particularly like at the end of a term where I'm getting more frequent communications from students and parents, it can take a little bit of a longer time. So I preface the school year with that expectation that it could take me up to 48 hours to get back to you. Okay, and so I really encourage my students not to leave questions about assignments until the very last minute, because they might not receive the reply that they want in time, you know, as in the example that I talked about earlier with my student. So setting those expectations for feedback when they can reasonably expect to hear from you is important. And starting off the school year in that way certainly helps, so that we lay the groundwork for those expectations. Something else that has saved me some time is that I will take a look at questions that are coming up, whether it be through things that have come through email or private messages and things like that. And some of them I will end up addressing to the full group. Okay, so if one student has a question, chances are more students have that same question. So when I receive those emails and I have, you know, maybe a couple of students asking similar questions, then I know, you know, the whole class might be able to benefit from an answer to this. And so I will address it in one of two ways. During the next online class, I might make a general announcement, say I've had a couple of questions like this, here is the answer. Or another thing that I have done as well is that I might post an announcement to Google Classroom for the whole class. So those are some ways that I do tackle that. Another approach I sometimes take is involving peers or classmates to answer questions. I've encouraged my students in the past to post a public question on Google Classroom assignments if they're comfortable. So some students aren't comfortable, and so they will put in private comments on assignments, so it's just me that sees it. But there are others that they want those answers right away, and they don't mind interacting with their classmates about those questions. And so they will post a general comment on the assignment where the whole class can see, and classmates can then help answer those questions. And it frees up time for me to tackle those other tasks that I need to get to. Another option that I have started utilizing, I started this last year, was setting up a fact page to share and provide answers for those commonly asked questions. So I have a page that's dedicated to this on my class website that I will regularly direct students and parents to for those commonly asked questions. And I have found that that has been a great help because once they get into the habit of, okay, well, you know, here's the website that I can go to, here's a page with frequently asked questions that I can look at before going to the teacher to ask for those specifics. So that has been a great help as well. Another thing that I have done that has really helped to save time for me, I guess in a sense, is having virtual office hours. Now, this is something, so these virtual office hours is something that's actually included in my school schedule, okay? It's a time that is designated specifically for those online office hours. At my school, we call it a flex block, okay? And it's a time where students are able to drop in for extra help. And it is by choice. So this isn't a mandated time for students to be online with me. It is a time where they can choose to be there with me. Okay, and so if they have questions or if they have particular things that maybe they're stuck on and just need that one-on-one time with me, the flex block time is where they would drop in and come and get that help and get those questions answered if they need to. So they have the access to the teacher. Okay. One benefit of having this option is actually a reduction of emails in my inbox. So that was a nice sort of repercussion, I guess, a positive repercussion of including FlexBlock. The ability for those students that need the help and are able to access it in a more informal way has been a really good thing. You know, I will often get students dropping in for FlexBlock, but I do find throughout the year that there are particular times where they do tend to drop in more than others. So for example, towards the end of each term, as report cards are nearing, that tends to be a time where I get more and more students coming in. But there are some days, particularly during the middle of the term, where maybe no one has questions or just a few have questions. And so I will have some gaps between students that are dropping in, which ends up being a really good thing for me because during those gaps, I'm able to use that time to respond to emails or private comments on assignments, to give feedback on student work, and to get some grading done. So it's a time that I'm able to utilize quite well. So not only when the kids are dropping in, but also when I have those gaps, it can be used for those other things that I do need to get done as well. Something that I've instituted recently as well, this past year I've done more of it, some experimenting, is giving feedback through audio or video. And this is something that that I would suggest you give a try, right? I experimented with different forms of feedback for students this past year. Previous to that, I would write feedback as a comment on either a document or as a private comment on Google Classroom. And one of the things with this is that it can be rather time consuming. Okay, and because I find that when I do write, it's always, I'm thinking about the specific best way to say it, and I do a lot of editing in my mind, and so it ends up taking me a little bit of time to write things out exactly the way I would like it, right? But I tried an alternative this past year. I tried 2 different Google Chrome add-ons. So those add-ons were Talk and Comment and Mote. Okay, so those are the 2 add-ons that I gave a try. And what these add-ons allow you to do is to make audio comments, specifically on things like Google Classroom or Docs and things like that. And what I found was that recording comments was quicker than typing them out, most definitely. So I was starting to save myself some time by using those add-ons. But in addition to that, the other thing I found was that students responded more to voice comments as compared to my written comments. So, I would leave a comment saying, oh, you missed this portion of the assignment. Can you please, unsubmit it and give this a try again and then hand it back in? and they would, type back to me as a private comment, oh, sorry, I forgot that, or, whatnot. And then they would, yeah, sure, I'll do that right away. And then they would get that task done. And I found that happening more frequently than if I was just giving written comments. It's almost as if, I don't think it's that they don't necessarily understand the written comments, but sometimes when you're working online, there's a lot of reading that happens, right? And so if it's verbal rather than written, I found that I was getting a much better response from students in what it was that I wanted them to do. And so that was actually an added bonus. So not only did it save me time, but students responded much better to it than compared to written comments. So this coming school year, I'm going to be experimenting some more with feedback, and I'm actually going to be I'm going to keep up the audio feedback, but I'm also going to be experimenting with some video feedback as well this year. Flipgrid is a tool that I'm going to be incorporating much more frequently into my classes, and that's one of the uses that I have for it is video feedback for students. So I'll keep you updated on how that goes. Another time saver that I have found is taking a look at those comments that I use frequently. As educators, many of us use some of the same phrases when we're grading, or even similar phrases, and it can be helpful to have these comments saved to be able to reference and copy and paste them when it's needed. Google Classroom has a great way to do that. It allows you to save comments in a comment bank so that you can easily access it when you're grading, and it can be an awesome time saver. So if you haven't used that function of Google Classroom before, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see a quick video tutorial on that, and I would be happy to do another video on that and to give you guys some more tools in your tool belt there for grading and saving time. All right, now, beyond that, another thing that I have found to be quite effective is the ability to schedule assignments and announcements on Google Classroom. So when you are scheduling things ahead of time, that can help you save time. Okay, because what I do, part of my work process, is that I try and batch my work together. Okay, so instead of sitting down and conceptualizing, writing, posting assignments each day, I schedule a time throughout the week to do a bunch at a time, and then I schedule them out to be posted on Google Classroom. And that certainly does help to save time. It most definitely does. These days, I don't even have to do too much of that anymore because I've been teaching online for so long that I've really been able to develop my Google Classrooms to a place that I'm really liking the assignments that I'm giving year after year. Obviously I tweak them and things like that, but I have a good basis to go from. And so these days, I mostly do, that batch scheduling with things like weekly announcements and things of that nature, because most of my assignments I already have, and I give students access to them, to all of the term assignments at the beginning of the term. So I don't have to worry about week to week to week what it is I'm going to be assigning the students. They have access to it right from the beginning of the term. And so that frees me up then for the rest of the term, where I'm not worrying about writing out the assignments and instructions and things like that. I'm able to redirect and refocus my energy on other tasks that need to be done. So that has certainly been a time saver as well. Now, in addition to that, one thing that has saved me is establishing a specific routine for how I'm going to be working. Okay, as an online teacher, I'm able to work from home, and so that's a really nice thing. I really do like being able to work from home. But for those of you who have spent any time working from home, you know the importance of establishing a routine, right? That routine is very, very important. It will help prevent distraction, make sure you have the necessary time to get everything done, and to help you stay organized, right? I use my Google Calendar to help me with this. I start by blocking out the time that I'm scheduled to be online with students. Then I'll include online staff and department meetings. And then once all of those items have been included, I block time each day for things like responding to emails, grading assignments, meeting with parents, planning, prepping. And one thing I did tend to forget to schedule this past year, and I need to do better at this coming year. I was not very good with scheduling time to make sure I had a lunchtime or even time to get up and stretch, walk away from the computer for a bit, because I'm very get things done, right? So making sure that you're including things like a lunchtime, time to step away from the computer and not just doing work, but taking care of yourself as well. That is super important, all right? And so establishing that routine, using my Google Calendar to be able to do that is a really good thing that does end up saving time, okay? The final thing that I want to talk about here, this is particularly over this year became very, very important, but the idea of maintaining healthy boundaries. It is, particularly when you work from home, it is really difficult sometimes to maintain those boundaries between work time and personal time. That has been one of my biggest challenges with managing my time properly ever since I started teaching online. Having those healthy boundaries between work time, personal time, it's been difficult. Things started to feel out of control for me when I was spending 14 to 15 hours a day working on school-related tasks. There is always more work to do. There's always something that I can improve on to make things better. But that doesn't always mean that I should be spending that time, right? I do need to make sure that I'm taking care of my own health and well-being, as well as doing my job properly, right? And so when those hours of work were getting out of control, I had to sort of take a step back and say, there has to be a better way. I need to help keep myself accountable. Okay, and so I actually found a really neat way to do this, and I want to share this with you quickly here. I'm going to pull up my phone because it's actually an app that I use on my phone. Right? And the app is called Hours Tracker. Okay, so Hours Tracker is the app that I use, and as you can see here, you can add different jobs and things like that. When you are in a particular job, you can clock in, you can clock out, you can do a whole host of different things. And this app has been wonderful for me. Now here's the thing. Okay, I guess I should get this out of the way first before I continue. This is not a sponsored ad. I'm not receiving anything for mentioning the app in today's video. It's actually just one that I use and find very helpful. I was able to easily track my time as well as my earnings for my job. I clock in, I clock out, I record when I start working, when I stop working. I could add breaks that I took. I could also put in any notes specific to that day, you know, whether it be something specific that I was working on or whatnot. I was able to keep track of where I spent my time and how much time I spent doing it. But the most useful feature for me was the alerts. Okay, so I set it up so that my phone would warn me once I was approaching my set number of work hours for the day. And that helped me so that, that I could keep myself accountable and maintain those healthy boundaries between work time and personal time. You know, I hope that these tips have been helpful for you. If you are embarking on a journey of online learning, I certainly wish you a whole ton of luck in all that you are doing. Once again, I do want to invite you to subscribe to my channel. I have a list of videos that will be coming out in the next few weeks to help those of you that that are getting started with online teaching as well as online learning. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can be notified when I do post a new video or when I go live. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.